My survival is more important than anything. My survival is more important than anything. You do what you gotta do, because my survival is more important than anything. You've heard enough over the last week to know what kind of person this defendant is. And I'm going to tell you right here, right now, what the appropriate sentence is for this defendant, and it is life. We aren't mincing words. We don't want you to be confused. The appropriate sentence in this case is life. And I'm going to tell you why. When you go back in the jury room and you start taking into consideration what the appropriate sentence should be, you need to consider a few things. And I submit to you the first thing that you need to take a look at is the offense itself. So when you go back there, I don't want you to forget about what you've heard over the last week, because you heard some pretty scary things about this defendant. This offense was a scary offense. And but for members of the Houston Police Department stepping in, we could be sitting here for a capital murder case. And for all intents and purposes, that's how you need to treat this case, because that's what the defendant believed was going to happen at the end of the day. You heard him on that phone call. He believed that Megan Verkis was somewhere in this city, duct-taped, hog-tied, and begging for her life. And you know what? He was okay with it. He was okay with it if it meant that his survival would overcome. He also believed that somewhere in this city, Mac McDaniel lay in a ditch, shot twice in the head. He believed that, and he paid for that. You heard Officer Duran with the Houston Police Department get up on the stand and tell you about how this defendant paid him $1,800. $1,800 for the life of a father to a 9-year-old girl. He knew exactly what he was doing. He paid for it, he wanted it, and he was okay with the capital murder of 2 people. Luckily, Megan and Matt can be here today. And let me tell you that there's a lot of people in this courtroom today who have waited for this moment, who have waited for you to hear about the reign of terror that this defendant has come down over them for years and years and years. This isn't just one bad act. This is a background. This is years and years of the defendant preying on people. Why did we bring you Annie? Because from the very beginning, he's been violent. This isn't just one instance of conduct. This is who the defendant is. He's the kind of person that will hold a knife to the mother of his children's throat and threaten to kill her while their 3-year-old son stands by and watches. He's the kind of person that will grab and punch and hit someone and not feel remorse about it. Over and over and over. I submit to you that it took a lot of courage for Annie Jacob Morrison to get up on that stand and testify. You could tell how nervous she was, because for the first time she had to share some pretty embarrassing details about her life. She's a successful attorney and a great mom, and she had to get up here and share with you some pretty bad details about her past. She was embarrassed. She was embarrassed that she let the defendant treat her the way he did for all those years and didn't tell anyone. But today, in front of you, she overcame that, and she was strong enough to share her story with you. And you need to take that into consideration when you go back there. You need to remember what she told you about him putting a knife to her throat. You need to remember how she had to seek protective order after protective order to keep this defendant away from her. He cannot be trusted, and that is something that you have to consider when you go back there. You know, based on what Annie told you, that he's not a person that can be trusted out in the community. A protective order means nothing to him, because this defendant is going to do what he wants to do regardless of what the law tells him. You need to take into consideration how he treated Annie all those years, and then how he began treating Darren Gooden and his family. This is the kind of person that will punch a kid in the chest so hard that he loses his breath. He doubles over in pain and then tells him, you know what? When the police get here, You need to tell your dad. You need to tell the police it was your dad and not me. Just like he said on those phone calls. He's scientific, he's calculating, and he has a plan. And he's pulling you along for the ride, but don't you let him. Why did we play those jail phone calls for you today? Because you needed to hear how he felt about the offense that he committed. You needed to hear what he was like after he's arrested for 2 counts of solicitation of capital murder. Did you hear remorse in his voice in those jail phone calls? Absolutely not. What you heard was someone who was flirting with reporters and working on his movie deal and his book deals. This is a big joke to him. His entire life, he's been pulled out of any situation where he could get in trouble. He's been bailed out by his parents. He's been bailed out by his mom. They've been doing it for years, and they've done him no service. He's gotten away with it for so long, but the time has come for him to no longer get away with it. It stops here, and it stops today. This defendant cannot be trusted to live among us, and we cannot guarantee that our community will be safe with him out there among the community. He's terrorized too many people for too long. Don't let him pull one over on you, because it's part of his plan. He thinks he's smarter than everyone, but he's not. You know, when Mr. Callaghan and I presented our case in chief to you and you came back with a guilty verdict, we were appreciative. But the fact of the matter is that a guilty verdict without the appropriate punishment is hollow. Today we come before you fighting for all the people that have been victimized by this defendant. And we're telling you that the only appropriate punishment in this case is life.